Previously on the topic hole. If there's anything else you want explained, let me know. I have a few more Monster Hunter videos planned. How exactly does defense work, and by how much does it reduce damage by? 4 months later. Alright, on this channel we've talked about how statuses work, we've talked about how attack works, and now, thanks to popular demand, we're going to talk about defense. Hey, I know I'm a couple months late, but better late than never. Alright, so before we get started, I have a goal of hitting 1,000 subscribers by the middle of this year. So if you could do me a favor, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. It really helped me out a lot. I have some other stuff planned around Rise, but that's for a video for another day. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so first we're going to talk about how I did this, then we're going to talk about what I found, and last I'll give you some strategies that you can use in GU or in Rise when it comes out. So this was a tough one to make. So at first I thought we would just be able to see our health in real time, but Capcom didn't want to make it easy on us, so we had to get a little creative. At first I tried to look at poison and count the ticks as they went down, so I could use that to measure how much health I had. Well, that was way too slow. So then I was like, well, I'll just see what's the weakest thing that can hit me, and then see how many of those it takes. And that was slow and unreliable, so I just had to dive into the code. Alright, so we should talk about a couple things before we get going. So first, where do we get our defense? As many of you guys already know, you get your defense from your armor as well as buffs. So your hunter comes with 1 defense just standard, and the rest comes from your helmet, chest, arms, waist, and legs. You can also bring items like your armor talisman and your armor charm, or get different buffs from like a hunting horn or eating at the canteen. We're only going to be looking at the defense from your armor, but I just want to let the newer hunters out there know that there's other ways that you can also increase your defense. Alright, so next, how does your health work? When you first start the hunt, you'll start off with 100 health, and you can actually increase this to a max of 150 by either taking a max potion while you're in the quest or eating for 50 more health at the canteen. When you get hit, you're going to see 3 things. So you're going to see the portion of your health that's missing, you're going to see this red bar, and then you're going to see your reduced green bar. The red bar is going to be half of the health that you lost, and this will actually heal back up if you don't get hit again. Alright, so now that we know those things, we can start to look at how defense works in a hunt. So I've gone through and I've documented how much damage you take from a Rathalos' tackle as well as a Rathalos' fireball, and I've actually changed my defense as well as my elemental resistance to see what happens. So before we get started, I do want to let you guys know these numbers are using a normal Rathalos that is unenraged. This was hard enough just trying to bait out tackles and fireballs, so I did not want to deal with having it enraged, and that would just take forever. So these numbers are going to be just normal Rathalos. So we're going to go ahead and start with base defense. So here are the numbers for low rank, for high rank, and for G rank. The first thing I noticed was the damage reduction that you get from stronger armor. So it actually tapers off pretty quickly. So let's look at this for example. At 1 defense, you take 62 damage, and in order to half that damage, you need to get 71 armor. To half that, you need 211 defense. This made me think about what the perfect amount of defense actually is. So for me, it's going to be 1 mega potion away from max health, and this will keep me from getting wombo comboed, and if I want to decrease my damage anymore, it's just going to take way too much defense. Just look at this. At 451 defense, you take 9 damage, and in order to reduce that down to 8 damage, I need to increase my defense by 100 more. That's just not worth it. When your defense starts to give you marginal returns, I recommend just focusing on other skills. Pause. We'll get back to high rank in a minute, but every time a new Monster Hunter game comes out, I always see the videos saying, oh, max defense. And so I decided to try it out, see what the max defense I could make was. So, this is the max possible defense in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. So, while I was playing around with this, I noticed something pretty interesting. So, if you have negative defense, you become immortal. I'm not kidding. You really cannot die. So since I found this out, we've been trying to figure out a legitimate way to actually achieve this on the Discord. Come join us if you want to help us out, or if you just want some cool people to hunt with. I was really surprised that even with no armor, I still didn't die. You'll start to see your damage plateau again, but it's not until around 300 defense. And GRank. When you're in GRank, you should have well over 100 defense, and if you don't, you're gonna have a bad time. As with the others, you'll start to see diminishing returns around 511 defense. Let's move on to elemental resistance. I'll share my final thoughts, and then I'll share some strategies that I think are useful. I only compiled data for high rank and GRank, but what I found was pretty interesting. Alright, so no one's gonna be surprised that having more fire resistance decreases your fire damage, but the amount that it decreases your damage is actually pretty surprising. For high rank, having 50 defense and 20 resistance was the same as having 80 defense. I saw the same thing for G rank. If you have 201 defense and 5 resistance, it's the same thing as having 221 defense. I didn't expect resistance to matter so much. So for elemental attacks, if you increase your defense by 5 points, it just decreases your damage by 3% on average. And if you increase your fire resistance or elemental resistance by 5, it actually decreases your damage by 6%. This is a double-edged sword though, because if you have negative elemental resistance, you're gonna die much faster. Alright, so final thoughts. So after looking at the data, I would say that defense is important to a degree. So sure, don't run out there with no defense, but if you get to the point where one mega potion is going to heal you back up, investing in more defense is not really worth it, and you should really just start focusing on DPS instead. We didn't talk about this here, but in Monster Hunter, DPS is actually a form of defense. Let me tell you what I mean. So if you're hitting a monster enough, you can actually make it flinch and stop an attack, or you can even make the monster fall down and it can attack for a period of time. If you're having issues with elemental attacks, you can always eat for elemental resistance. Elemental resist large gives you 10 more resistance to whichever element you picked. Since Rise is coming out soon, here's a roadmap of what I would do and what I have done in previous Monster Hunter games as well. So for low rank, just focus on getting through it with spending as little money as possible. The skills are not very good in low rank, and the armor in high rank is going to have double the defense and skills that are actually going to be useful. So low rank, I just try to rush through there as fast as possible. In early high rank, what I'll do is I'll try to get some defense so I can stay alive, but after I reach that threshold that we were talking about before, I can heal up in one mega potion, then I'm just going to move on and try to get as many skills as I can. And for G rank, I can't wait for Rise's G rank. I just do the same thing. Get as much defense as possible so I stay alive. But then after I get to that point, I'm going for skills. So that's it. That's how defense works and my advice for starting a new game. If anything I explained was not clear, or if you have any suggestions for other topics, leave a comment below and just let me know. If you stuck with me till the end, go ahead and like this video and maybe even share it with a friend. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and all the help and views are very, very appreciated. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the places, and see you next time.